Hello, this is a look at my Tokyo Marui Hi-Capa 4.3, 6 months on. I've probably put around 1,000 plus rounds through it now, and it's still as accurate, still has great range, and still as consistent as it was the day I bought it. I've been running it on G&G 0.28 gram BBs and WE Nuprol green gas. The hop has no problem lifting the 0.28 gram BBs. In fact, I think it could probably lift a lot heavier. Internally, there's nothing to report. There's no rubbing or chafing on the slide of the frame. All seems good internally, as it was when I bought it. Externally here, you can see on the aluminium frame that the paint is starting to come off. This is where I holster it into my G-code holster. It's quite a tight fitting holster. It does hold it very well. But yeah, the paint isn't the greatest and it's starting to come off. This might be an issue for some of you who like to keep a pristine gun. But for me, just a little bit of paint is nothing really. It's just battle scars for my liking, really. Yeah, it's purely cosmetic. If you don't want that kind of thing happening to your pistol, you're going to have a bad time with this gun when you're holstering it into a hard plastic holster, because inevitably the paint is going to come off. I think it's going to rub off and wear off. And this is just wear after 6 months of owning it. Other than that, externally, there's nothing wrong with it at all. No scratches, no cracks or anything like that. Just the paint rubbing off. And believe me, it's been through the walls a little bit. I fell on it, scraped up against walls with it, laid on it, and yeah, it's done quite well. After doing a fair bit of research on which holster to get, I finally decided on the G-code holster. It did dent my bank balance quite a bit. It was £80, but it did come with a MOLLE attachment for it, so you can put it onto your rigs easy. Otherwise, if you don't get the MOLLE attachment, it just comes with a belt attachment. It's made of Kydex, so it's very strong and very secure. You're going to have a hard time breaking this, I think. And it does keep your pistol very secure. So much so that I don't use a lanyard anymore. I just rely on this holster to keep my pistol safe when I'm running about, and it does that. There's no way you're going to press the mag release button either, so I've had no mag losses, mag drops with this holster, so that's something you don't have to worry about. I acquired this replica IMI retention holster for $19.11. I got it very cheap. I just bought it really to do a few experiments on to see if it would fit the 4.3, and it doesn't. So I started to cut it about. The reason it doesn't fit is because the 4.3 has got a square trigger guard, whereas the 1911 has got a round trigger guard. I did take a Dremel to where the trigger guard does sit, and it does fit in better, but the retention clip doesn't clip in. I tried to modify that as well, and it wasn't having any of it, so I'm just left with a holster that doesn't work at all now, really. But lesson learned: if you've got a Hi-Capa, don't buy an IMI 1911 holster for it because it doesn't fit. A problem I have had is with the magazines. I've broken 2 lots of feed lips in 6 months. They just seem to be very brittle to me, and they don't like me using my Tokyo Marui speed loader on them. They kind of wobble about and move about when you put the speed loader pistol loader thing onto them. Really hard to get the BBs in, and subsequently you've broken 2. So what I do now is I pull the spring all the way down and just load the BBs into the middle. With this method you do sometimes miss a BB or 2, but it's not a big deal, and it's better than having broken feed lips, I suppose, because the TM feed lips are about £5 a time. I did buy a couple of these purple Shooter Designs feed lips, and I fitted one onto one of my mags, and they are rubbish. The BBs have a hard time getting past the feed lip. It just seems to be jamming up on it. I did take a Dremel to it, and without much success really. So buy standard TM feed lips. Don't buy these Shooters Design ones. I'm going to be sending them back to the retailer in the next couple of days. So after 6 months of ownership, pros and cons. Right, first up, the pros. It's consistently accurate. Every shot, from the first shot to the last shot in the magazine, you can just guarantee you're going to hit the spot where you need to hit. Also, the TM reliability. You know you can pull this out of your holster, fire it, and it will shoot. Too many times I pulled other brand of guns out of my holster, to vent the gas, to get a misfeed, to get an overhop, to get an underhop. With this, you can just rely on it. The range is excellent on it. It's comparable to any of my AEGs really. Just can't fault it. Trigger speed. The trigger speed on this gun is awesome. Because of that plastic slide, it's a lot lighter than the metal slides, the aluminium slides. It just works so much quicker. As quick as you can pull your finger on that trigger is as quick as it's going to fire. I've had pistols with metal slides on before, and they are nothing compared to the speed of firing of this gun. Aftermarket parts. There are so many parts out there for this gun. Modification parts, parts to make it look pretty, replacement parts, spare parts. Most retailers will stock something to do with a Hi-Capa, and the parts list is endless out there. You can change every aspect of it if you want, from aluminium slides, metal slides, to different frames, to different grips, to different triggers, to different hammers. You want it, you can do it to this gun. Although this one of mine is totally bog standard, it shot perfect out of the box, so I'm just going to keep it bog standard for now because it's doing it for me, so that's the way I'm going to keep it. And the all-weather usability. I've been using this throughout the UK winter for the last 6 months, from temperatures from 10 degrees Celsius down to probably, I don't know, -2 maybe, and it always fires off every BB in the magazine. As long as you've filled it up with gas, it hasn't let me down. It just fires all the BBs out. I'm using the New Prol green gas in it, and it just seems to do the trick for it. Now the bad points. Well, the paint on the frame is a pretty bad point. It's not a big issue for me, but it may be a big issue for some of you who don't really want to be losing your paint off your frame. It's down to holstering it in a tight plastic holster. So if you're going to use maybe a material type holster, then you're not probably going to lose as much paint, but the majority of people I think are going to want a retention type holster. So expect it to take the paint off the aluminium frame. Also, the magazine feed lips. This is a very bad point for me. I've broken 2 in 6 months. They just seem to be brittle and weak. I've used a proper speed loader on them, proper TM speed loader on them, and yet they still broke. So what I've taken to do now is to pull the spring right down and load them in the middle of the magazine. This works, but you do miss your BB or two. It's pretty bad. You think TM would, especially their most popular handgun probably, would get the feed lips right so you can load them with, at least load them properly with their own speed loader. I've not had this issue with any other pistols, but this one, it just doesn't seem to like being loaded with a speed loader in the top. It will work, it does, but like I say, I've broken 2 doing it, and you just feel like you're forcing them in there. Okay, let's get it on the chrono and see what it can do. It's about 10 degrees Celsius, and I'm using Blaster 0.2s in just for the chrono.